Charlamagne the God has given out more Donkey of the Days than anyone in radio history. He's made rappers cry on air. He made Birdman storm out of his own interview. He told Post Malone to his face that he was a culture vulture and watched that man spiral into alcoholism. But you want to know who never got a Donkey of the Day? Jay-Z. Diddy, until it was safe. Andrew Schulz, who said worse things about black women than Post Malone ever dreamed of. And that ain't a coincidence. That's a pattern. 25 years of the same pattern. Nothing
new, nothing changed, same old shit.
He will go as hard as he wants on you as long as you cannot hurt him back. The moment you have real power, real money, real access to his bag, the Donkey of the Day disappears. The receipts go quiet. The accountability takes a vacation. We got the full price list right here. Every name, every moment. Every time he chose the bag over the truth. And we starting from the very beginning. The one moment that taught him exactly how this game works. This is the origin story. Charlamagne is grinding. He is not famous yet, not the Breakfast Club yet. He is a radio personality on the come up at a station in Philadelphia, trying to make a name for himself the only way he knows how, by being the most unfiltered voice in the room. Beanie Siegel had beef with Jay-Z, real beef, and Charlamagne put Beanie on air and let him go for 30 to 40 minutes. Talked about Jay-Z, talked about money, talked about loyalty, the whole thing. Charlamagne thought it was great radio, and honestly, it probably was. Monday morning, he walks into work, called into the office. Program director tells him they are moving in a different direction. Just like that, fired. He had already put down the security deposit on a townhouse. He and his wife had already packed up the whole apartment, clothes already in the car. Moving day was supposed to be that week. One interview, one moment of going at someone with real power, and it cost him his job, his apartment, and his entire next chapter in one Monday morning conversation. Well, in his own book, Black Privilege, which I read a couple months ago, he said that he never confirmed Jay-Z really did it, but now think about every single time since 2009 that Charlamagne has had the chance to go at Jay-Z and didn't. Every soft take, every deflection, every time Dame Dash sat across from him on his own show and told him directly that he never talks bad about Jay-Z, and Charlamagne changed the subject. You don't find that
suspicious? You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious?
That is not journalism. That is a man who still remembers exactly what challenging real power cost him. And he decided he was never paying that price again. You know what they say, bruh. A burnt hand teaches best. Charlamagne's hand got torched in 2009. And he ain't touched that stove since. So once you understand that rule, the Diddy situation stops being confusing and starts making perfect sense. Charlamagne gave Diddy's Last Train to Paris album Donkey of the Day. Just clowned the whole project on air. And Diddy, Sean Combs, one of the most powerful men in the music industry at the time, called him personally, got him on the phone, and told him, you cannot do that in somebody's first week. When I am trying to get my numbers up, you come out and criticize the project, people might not even go check for it. And Charlamagne went on air and said Diddy was right, called it a lesson, said that was one of the first times he realized the platform had real consequences.
That's literally my only thoughts on that list. Like, you know, what is power? Because power just can't be noise, man. I've made a lot of noise, but there's a difference between noise and having actual influence and power. You know, there's people that'll, you know, they'll bring people on Breakfast Club because Breakfast Club helps to sell books. Breakfast Club can help your podcast numbers jump. Breakfast Club can, you know, have people tune into your TV show. Breakfast Club can have people go out and vote for you. Breakfast Club can have people pull up to your, you know, movie, you know, that first weekend when those box office numbers really count. I'll never forget, you know, Diddy yelling and screaming at me. This is before I even recognized truly, you know, the power, you know, that the platform was commanding. This is when he dropped the Last Train to Paris album. And I gave him Donkey of the Day for that album. right? I'm like, yo, this shit is shake weight music. You know what I mean? Once again, being an asshole, because people love that album, right? But I'm just fucking with him. And he came to the station hot, like go out the back door, Charlamagne, type shit. And I remember when I finally had a conversation with Diddy about it, asked Sean Prez about it. Sean Prez put us on the phone. And Diddy was like, bro, you can't do that on my first week. He said, I'm a big boy. You know, I can take criticism of the music, but not on my first week. When I'm trying to get these first week numbers up, you know, you come out and you know, shit on my project like this, people might not even go check for the project. And that was one of the first times I was like, oh shit, he's right. You know?
A lesson. The man who tells rappers every single day to take accountability for their behavior learned a lesson from Diddy about when it is and is not appropriate to criticize someone. That is not growth. That is a man getting his wrist slapped by somebody he cannot afford to lose. And for 15 years, that relationship held. Charlamagne and Diddy, cool. Breakfast Club and Revolt, connected. The Price List, current. Then the Diddy raids happened in 2024. Homeland Security showed up at his homes as part of a sex trafficking investigation. And watch what Charlamagne does. He goes on Brilliant Idiots and says he feels sad. Says it is sad watching someone's legacy burn to the ground. Says these guys provided the soundtrack to our lives.
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
I don't like seeing another legacy go up in smoke. Now listen, you do the crime, you know, you gotta be held accountable. I think you have to focus on the issue, not the individual.
I think when it comes to that situation, man, I think we shouldn't focus on the individual, we should focus on the issue.
I think we need to focus on the issue, not the individual. Because what happens a lot of times in these situations, we get so caught up in the celebrity of it all that we don't ever take the time to talk about what's the real core issue here. To me, it's domestic violence.
Yeah.
It's these men that need to go do the work on themselves because they're dealing with all this hurt and this pain and this unhealed trauma, and they're projecting that on the other women. And it's the patriarchy.
But right now, as I'm talking, there's a woman out there getting beat up by a man, right? And she's not gonna get no news coverage. Nobody's gonna talk about her.
We should say the name of Cassie, the survivor of the domestic violence.
Yes.
Let's talk more about her.
Absolutely.
As well.
Let's talk about the issue, Priya. Let's talk about the actual issue and not the individual.
The reality of the situation is you can't do anything except for report about what actually came out in this situation. He got sued, he settled.
For all of it?
I don't know.
I heard all of it.
Well, if he did, I think the conversation we could have without, you know, becoming products of a lawsuit ourselves.
But we could just say allegedly for everything right now, and then we could start having fun again.
But even with that, what's the point of that though?
That's fun. So we can have fun.
Yeah, it's fun until it's not you. That could easily be anybody in this room.
No.
Yeah, it could be.
Not that shit.
I didn't just get a drug. I remember going. I went to the sex store and got Spanish Fly.
Oh, so you?
Shut up. Spanish. I'm telling her, no, me and you just had sex. Nobody else did nothing. So it just was weird that she was like, well, I'm just glad it was you. You know what I'm saying? Because in my mind, I'm like, yo, you could have been in a real bad situation if it was another motherfucker
That's a huge compliment, man. A girl just said, yo, at least you me.
I didn't I didn't because me and her had every intention of having sex with each other.
So then why would you put the Spanish Fly?
I was a freaky, I'm still a freaky motherfucker, but I was a really, listen, my whole.
Was she passed out while you f***ed her?
Nah, she wasn't like, she was like one of those drunks where, no, she was one of those drunks where like, she was one of those drunks where she was like, she wasn't coherent, but she was up. You know when your girls is, like when you're blacked out, like that, don't know what the f***'s going on type shit. Like she was really
It's a lot of things that guys did, especially when we were young, that we just didn't consider. And I'm married to my wife. Me and my wife dated for a whole year. She would not give me no pussy.
Yeah.
Me and my wife hung out one Saturday night and she got sloppy drunk and passed out at my mama's house and I got that.
Damn, while she was passed out?
Yes, I mean, she was me back and all that, but she was really drunk. So I asked her yesterday, I was like, yo, did I you the first time we ever had sex? And she looked and she goes, I mean, in hindsight,
Yeah.
No.
Can I see what that mouth do though for $6? How much you got in it? $26.
No.
You let me in if you run a train on you right now.
What can you get for $26?
You can buy me a drink for $26.
Whoa.
Can we slip something in your drink, then take advantage of it? And you're gonna learn to love this sucking this pee-pee. I sniffed your chair last time you was
You're
here.
a sick person.
Yes, the woman that men love to masturbate to her Instagram. 1 in 3 men have masturbated to her Instagram. Every man has masturbated to this woman at least once in their life. Your breasts are ready for feeding. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I can tell the way you sit, you got some.
Oh my God.
I'll suck a fart out your butt.
What?
What's so unfortunate, so unnecessary.
Bruh, is you serious? The soundtrack to our lives. Diddy is facing sex trafficking charges, and Charlamagne is giving a eulogy for his discography. Then he goes on The View, national television, millions of people watching, and instead of saying Sean Combs did something wrong, he talks about patriarchy. He talks about unhealed trauma. He talks about men projecting pain on the women. Every real thing said in a way that made sure Diddy's name was never the sentence. The man who gives Donkey of the Day to rappers for saying the wrong thing in a radio interview could not say on national television that Diddy did something wrong.
Y'all know what's going on, and so do I.
That is the price list working in real time, and it is about to get even cleaner. Now look, the Post Malone culture vulture debate was real. People had genuine questions about where he fit in hip-hop. Charlamagne was not wrong for asking them. Post Malone came into the culture, built a career off black music, and never fully reckoned with that. Fair critique. But here's where it gets ugly. Post Malone has said publicly that he fell into a cycle of alcoholism partly because of that kind of pressure. A young artist, still figuring out his place, getting buried repeatedly by the most influential voice in hip-hop radio. That is not nothing. That is real damage done to a real person.
You afraid as a white rapper that you may be considered a culture vulture?
A year and a half ago when I got my first braids,
cornrows.
So, yeah, some lady did them, yeah.
FYI, I think all white people with cornrows look stupid, but that has nothing to do with it.
No.
You got a girlfriend, don't you?
Yeah, she's right there.
What?
Ashlyn right here.
Yeah, she's right
Oh, hey, Ashlyn. How are you? You know he's gonna end up leaving you, right? The more
don't
famous
say
you
that.
get.
That's not true.
You know the more successful you get, you're going,
What's so unfortunate, so unnecessary.
Now, Andrew Schulz. Andrew Schulz is Charlamagne's co-host on Brilliant Idiots, his partner, his podcast running mate. And Andrew Schulz made comments about black women that were objectively worse than anything Post Malone ever said or did. Not slightly worse, not arguably worse, like worse. The kind of comments that if Post Malone had said them would have gotten a multiple Donkey of the Days and a full Breakfast Club segment about why he needs to sit all the way down. But Charlamagne sat next to Schulz on Brilliant Idiots and covered for him. Every single time the criticism came up, Charlamagne deflected, said Andrew was an equal opportunist, said people who called him racist didn't really know him, said his debates were about comedy.
Andrew Schulz has been trying to get me on his podcast for the longest, and I don't think I'm going to do it because I was sent a clip of Andrew Schulz making some very disparaging remarks about black women. And then I was sent another clip a few days ago about some disrespectful, sexually charged comments about what he would do or could do to Kendrick Lamar. And I think he was making the joke that Kendrick isn't particularly masculine. This is not me. This is Andrew Schulz. I interpreted his commentary as being suggestive that he doesn't see Kendrick Lamar as being a particularly masculine male and that he could probably bully him or dominate him in any way, whether that was a physical altercation or a sexual altercation. He was making a joke of it, but I think everybody got the point. I didn't appreciate that. No black man will ever be comfortable with any man, especially a privileged Caucasian man, making jokes about what you could do to me if you wanted to in a sexual way by overpowering me. I didn't think those comments was appropriate. I didn't think the comments he made about black women were appropriate. In my opinion, Andrew Schulz is getting too comfortable with his commentary on African people. I'm not going to say it's borderline racist. I'm going to say it is definitively racist. And I would say in many respects hypocritical, because if a black man made those same comments about a European Jew, if Kendrick made those comments about a white artist, if Kendrick made those comments about Jewish women, I'm sure Andrew Schultz's community would be up in arms. I'm quite sure the Jewish community would not take kindly to a mainstream black podcaster making disrespectful, stereotypical jokes about Jewish women, or making disrespectful, sexually suggestive comments about a very popular male Jewish recording artist and what he can do to them if he ever had the chance. Even though it was a joke, it was without question laden with a lot of historical and stereotypical innuendos and energy and assumptions that I didn't find funny. And I'm sure if the shoe was on the other foot, the Jewish community wouldn't find it funny as well.
Why don't you like him? I don't like anybody who disrespects blackness in any kind of manner. If I smacked you right now and then said, just kidding, would you still like me? Because that's what he does. He will disrespect black people in a casual conversation and leech off the black community at the exact same time and then say, oh, just kidding, under the guidelines of comedy. But when you're talking about a group of people in basic conversation, then that's when it becomes disrespect. In this conversation with Shannon Sharp, he was not specifically being disrespectful, but just because he said something intelligent one time, for me, it doesn't erase the disrespect. I'm one of the old school black people who, where you disrespect black people, we got a problem. I don't leave there to be no space. And there's this group of black people that I absolutely despise. And that's the group of black people who let there be space in between them and white people that they can sprinkle on disrespect. And then either think that they can stand on the backs of patriarchy or stand on the backs of classism, and that their blackness does not supersede their status. And when then constantly they always get reminded that they are just another at the end of the day, and then they act so shocked. I'm just the type of black man who don't let people play in his face. I'm the type of black man who stands on his blackness, and I put my blackness first and foremost because that's important to me. And not everybody understands me, and not everybody stands on those values, but I don't allow disrespect to the black community, especially black women.
Post Malone copying Future sound is a cultural crisis. Andrew Schulz talking reckless about black women is just comedy. I beg your pardon. And the only thing that is different between Post Malone and Andrew Schulz is that Charlamagne is currently making a bag with Schulz. Post Malone couldn't hurt him. Schulz could. So Post Malone got buried and Schulz got covered. That is the price list. That is what accountability costs on this show. You want the real Charlamagne the God? He's the guy who will torch your whole career over a soundbite and defend his business partner for saying something 10 times worse. Same mouth, different chat. He wrote a whole book about mental health, built a nonprofit around it, gave speeches, did interviews, made mental health advocate a core part of his public identity, right up there with the Breakfast Club and Donkey of the Day. And look, the anxiety he talked about in that book is real. Nobody is taking that from him. But then there is Tyrese Gibson. 2017, during one of the most publicly painful periods of his life, he was losing custody of his daughter, breaking down on social media, crying on camera. The kind of pain that is ugly and raw and impossible to fake. Charlamagne gave him Donkey of the Day, told him on air to be silent, said all that talking was making him look like a fool.
I've lost count of the amount of times that he's contributed to the stresses in and around my mental health. From being insensitive or just deciding to talk about a man that that he actually knows. No. The moment that he said, I should box you in your mouth or whatever the f***. It took everything in me to stay seated in that seat. Charlamagne was clever because he knew that they've been going at me for 5 years. And I've responded only a few times publicly, but for the most part, they knew that I was coming. And they knew that we was gonna have that conversation. So everybody that's speaking to the same thing that I've spoke to, you're this voice, you got books, you're this champion.
That is not a slip. That is not an old clip from before he found his values. That happened in 2017, during the book tour, during the nonprofit, which means one of two things. Either the mental health brand was always just a brand, or accountability only applies to people who cannot pick up the phone and call him about it. Pick one, because both of them are damning. Either way, the price list just got another item on it, and that item is expensive. January 2026, Charlamagne signs The Breakfast Club to Netflix. Full interviews gone from YouTube. The platform that gave him free access to millions of people every single morning. The platform that turned Breakfast Club clips into cultural currency. The platform that made him relevant to every generation that came up after radio, now behind a paywall. YouTube viewership cut from 27 million to 13 million in 1 year. That is not a dip. That is half your audience choosing not to follow you somewhere. Half the people who built you in 12 months gone. Now here's what he told the audience when he signed the deal. He posted on Instagram, 9 years that equals completion. Snake year that equals shedding. Let's try this new skin. New skin. That is what he called it, shedding. He was shedding all right. He shed 14 million viewers in 12 months. And when the people who built that audience pushed back, his response was, you are creating a narrative. Somebody planted something in your head. You are being manipulated. What? Think about that for a second. This is the same man who spent 15 years telling artists they owed the culture something, told rappers to stay authentic, gave people Donkey of the Day for chasing the wrong bag, then signed a deal that put his own show behind a subscription wall and told the audience that their frustration was a narrative. The bag won. It is not more complicated than that. The bag won. The audience lost. And when they noticed, he blamed them for noticing. Same rule, same pattern, same Charlamagne, just a different price tag.
Now here's one thing about Charlamagne that makes this whole pattern even more frustrating. Because every now and then, he does something that makes you think, okay, maybe the accountability is real. Maybe he actually means it. The you ain't black moment. 2020, Joe Biden joins the Breakfast Club virtually and tells Charlamagne directly,
listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Are you serious right now, bro?
You know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black, in front of millions of people. And Charlamagne pushed back, called it out, made national headlines. The whole culture celebrated it. For about 2 weeks, Charlamagne looked like exactly what he always claimed to be. The one voice in the room who would say what nobody else would say. Then Larry Elder sat across from him, and Larry Elder asked him directly, how are you not angry about what Biden said to you? A man came into your house and told you that you ain't black if you don't vote for him. Why are you not furious?
I know you probably got to go. Have you ever heard of the term wake-up call?
No.
It is an incident where a person of color forgets that they are of color and are reminded rather brutally by an unexpected act of racism. Have you ever had any of those?
Oh, brother.
I'm just asking. You think you've ever
Well,
had
I'm acutely aware, Charlamagne, that I'm a black person, just as you are a black person. And when Joe Biden insulted you by saying, you ain't really black, we don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or vote for Donald Trump, it seems to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part. How dare this guy come in here and insult you, a black man, and tell you you got to think a certain kind of way? I'm amazed that you weren't mad about that.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man.
I'm not gonna say it upset me, just like I'm not letting you upset me. You know what I mean? I don't tend to get upset over things like that. But what I did say.
Well, you just not talking a wake-up call, and it seemed to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part to have a white guy come in here.
How should I have replied to him, you think?
What I just now said, how dare you insult me and tell me I think as a human being, let alone as a black person? I don't tell you how to think, Joe Biden. How dare you come in here and tell me how I should think? I'm going to vote for Donald Trump if I want to vote for Donald Trump. And if I want to vote for Donald Trump, it does not make me not black. 20% of black people, black men, as I said, voted for Donald Trump in 2020. Are they not black now? So only 80% of black men walking around are really black, 20% are not because they voted for Donald Trump? How insulting is that? How condescending is that?
I mean, you're probably right, but I didn't take it in that way.
Well, I did.
As I said to him in that moment, it's just about me wanting something for my people, and I want to know what is he going to do for my people, and not only for my people now, how are you going to atone for the things you've done to my people?
Right.
That's it.
Right. And this is a guy, Joe Biden, who, when he first got into the Senate, hung out with segregationists, talked about how well he got along with them, talked about how he didn't want integration because of a jungle. This guy has made all sorts of insulting things to black people, and his policies right now are hurting black people. Inflation hurts the people at the bottom more than anything else. Letting a bunch of illegal aliens into the border are hurting black people more than anybody else, as I said earlier. He's opposed to school choice when he has his own kids in private school, and we lost a year, almost 2 years of in-school education in California because of COVID that he supported. I mean, this guy has done monstrous things to black people, and then for him to come in here and tell you how you ought to think as a black person, that blew my mind.
As a person objectively who doesn't care about either party, when I just take a step back and I just look at everything that's happening, I see one party that seems still committed to democracy somewhat, and one party who's headed fast towards fascism. That's just my personal opinion.
None of it's true. None of it's true. It's BS. They made it up. They lie.
Boldness is easy when it costs you nothing. That is not courage. It's content. Now, the Meek Mill situation, he said Meek Mill never recovered from the Drake beef, that something was just off. And Meek's Achilles heel was Twitter, and he is probably right about Meek. The analysis is not wrong, but here is what nobody said back to him. 3 TV shows canceled. His podcast co-host outgrew him so completely that Joe Budden called him the B-Mike on his own show. His YouTube audience cut in half in 12 months. And when the people who built him pushed back, he told them they were being manipulated. Meek Mill's Achilles heel was Twitter. What do you call it when your Achilles heel is every powerful person you ever met? The question is not whether Meek Mill recovered. The question is whether Charlamagne will. So I want you to tell me in the comments, is there anybody in media right now doing what Charlamagne used to do? Somebody who goes hard regardless of who is signing the check. Drop the name in the comments. I genuinely want to know. Oh, and I almost forgot. What is Charlamagne gaining by defending and backing Umar Johnson so much? I haven't found an answer for that yet. But anyway, if you like this video, watch the one on your screen right now, and I'll see you on the next one. Panda out.